Right there, right there.
One of the biggest threats facing the U.S. military today doesn't lurk in the Middle East. It's back here on the home front where, according to the Army's top brass, deep financial cuts could compromise the readiness of America's armed forces. Fort Benning's commanding general shares those sentiments.
We have to guard against the development of flawed and simple solutions to the problem of future war that are driven not by, not really by an understanding of threats to national security and what sort of capabilities we need in the Army to fight as part of the joint force, but are driven instead by trying to get answers to the budget problems. And so what I think is happening is that some defense experts are putting forward solutions to the problem of future war that are fundamentally flawed and could lead us to decisions that create vulnerabilities in our force.
The military has taken other hits too, like a self-induced blow to its image after a number of high-profile scandals involving current and former general officers, including McMaster's own mentor, David Petraeus.
We have to understand that for us as leaders in the military, the standards for us are higher, and they have to be higher than in any other profession, and that's because the stakes are really high in war. War involves killing and the prospect of death. It causes you, obviously, to make very tough moral and ethical decisions in environments of persistent danger. So I think it's right and necessary even for our society to keep expectations of military leaders very high.
But by the same token, the commander says society should elevate its own standards, and by doing so, educate themselves about who exactly is fighting in their name.
I think that one of the biggest, really, misunderstandings or problems in terms of understanding the wars in both Afghanistan and Iraq is that we never talk about the enemy. Who are we fighting? How many Americans could name the three main Taliban groups right now, let alone describe what their agendas are and what they say? So, back in World War II, we had these newsreels, why we fight, why we're fighting, who we're fighting.
And the general offers a clear picture about who we are fighting today.
Actually, what is happening in Iraq is you have, I believe, the Iranians pursuing a strategy of keeping a weak, dependent government in power in Baghdad so they can have control over, to a certain degree, over that government, but also to continue to create militias that lie outside of the government's control so they can be turned against the Iraqi government if the Iraqi government takes action that's inconsistent with Iranian interests. This is what you might call the Hezbollah model. This is what they've done in Lebanon. This is what they're doing in Syria.
Because of that continued threat, Fort Benning's commander circles back to the decisions being made at the nation's capital and a plea.
We can't compromise on training standards, on training and readiness. And of course, we're under budget pressure today, and that's one of the key things I think all of us as leaders have to remember, and that we have to ask our help from our leaders in Washington to make sure that we maintain the resources we need to make sure our units are prepared for future conflict and prepared to continue the fight today in Afghanistan.
For WLTZ First News, I'm Robbie Watson.